if we don't view one another as competition and threats, but instead co-conspirators, we might be able to give this patriarchy a run for its money.
Welcome to Taking Care of Lady Business, where we get real about what it takes to succeed, whether it's in business, life, or both. I'm talking to game-changing and visionary women who've broken barriers, built empires, and redefined success on their own terms. They'll share their strategies, secrets, and the no BS advice you need to rise to the top. I'm your host, Jennifer Justice, also known as JJ. Let's get into it. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Taking Care of Lady Business. I'm Jennifer Justice. Today, we have on the show Erin Gallagher. She is the CEO, founder, and author of Hype Women. Hi, Erin. How are you?
Hi, JJ. I'm so happy to be here with you.
I know. This is very exciting. Erin and I met in the depths of COVID, obviously over Zoom or something. And as two like-minded women who wanted the world to change for all of us. And here we are 5 years later in this, talking about your book. Amazing. And everything you've done since then.
It's been a wild ride.
Right?
And yeah, you really had a front row seat to the exodus from corporate America into my first company, and then the shifting out of that company to my current one. So yeah, it's been a winding road.
Yeah. So let's start at the beginning. Like when I first met you, I know that you were kind of corporate America, and then you started this company with some other people that wanted, was trying to help women. I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah. I spent 15 years in agencies, leading marketing, communications, PR. And so at that point, really trying to work with brands and companies to tell the stories of our clients and their products and their services. And, something shifted in me twofold. One was when I became a mother. Mm-hmm. I just had so much less room for bullshit. Mm-hmm. Things that I had allowed to take place in my career, in my personal life, that I had made excuses for, or thought that maybe I was the reason they were happening. I just kind of stopped. So that coincided with the election of a sociopathic person. And so I felt like something's got to shift here. And is this all there really is? And so that's when I decided to leave corporate America and my quote unquote safe job to endeavor in the space of entrepreneurship, which was never the plan for me. And I had no idea what I was doing. And so, yeah, that was when 2019 was when I launched my first company. Have her back.
Let's go back though. You said something that's really funny. My quote unquote safe job. Mm-hmm. And, doing what I do, there's and how many severance and separation agreements I do for women on a daily basis. It's like corporate America is not safe for women.
It's not safe. It's not safe on so many levels, but yeah. we are told and made to be afraid that doing something on our own and doing something outside of this system is so risky. We should stay in the place that gives us that paycheck every 2 weeks. But that paycheck is not guaranteed. Mm-hmm. And like you said, the safe part, there is a multitude of ways to define what that is. It's also not psychologically safe in many of these cases for us to stay inside of these systems. So, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, back to that. Yeah. Just had a little aside there.
Yes. Left that quote unquote safe place. What a crock. And started my first company. And that company, we really were going inside of big Fortune 500 companies and working with them to create practices and policies and just different ways of working that better supported women, allowed them to thrive in their careers, acknowledge the barriers that were in place, and started to give them the access that they had always deserved, but so rarely had seen. And
these companies were welcoming at this point?
So what's interesting is we launched 6 months before COVID hit. And then COVID hits and we go into all of the major life events that happened, including the murder of George Floyd and the massive global protests, and really the shift inside of corporate America to actually focus on DEI for the first time. Mm-hmm. So we were kind of on the front lines of that happening at that time. It wasn't planned, obviously, but that's where we were. So we worked with McDonald's to do their entire global DEI strategy in the summer of 2020. And that's a complicated company, and it has multiple layers and many stakeholders and shareholders. And so that's the kind of stuff that I was doing in that first company, creating the Career Breaks product for LinkedIn, creating it, launching it, something that addressed the fact that women more than anyone receive negative flack for a quote unquote resume gap. Mm-hmm. When in reality, it's stuff that you're seeing all the time, JJ. A woman leaving a job because it's an unsafe place for her.
Exactly.
And not immediately jumping back in. That looks like a gap, but really it was a career break where she was gaining life skills that could be infused into whatever she set her mind to next. So I did that for 2.5 years and, grew that company from being named one of, it was IPG's first equity investment in a majority women-owned business. They had never done that before in their 93-year history, global holding company that you're familiar with based in New York, and grew it to be named one of Fast Company's world's most innovative 2.5 years later. And then I turned 40 and I had this phrase that kept coming to me and refused to leave until I paid it the respect it was due. And it was, I will no longer abandon myself in service to others. I have been doing this in every facet of my life.
Right.
And I just decided, to what end? How much longer am I going to do this? So I walked away and started.
Where do you think that's it? Where did that phrase come from?
The universe. I mean, it's really it kept coming into my brain. I think it came from the fact that I was accepting and recognizing and validating that so much of my value and my worth, in my estimation, were tied to my service. Mm-hmm. So if I wasn't doing something for someone else, was I worth anything? Did I matter? That's a really great target for either manipulators or, a system like corporate America that really wants these type A ambitious women who are here to give everything they have to get the job done. I was a perfect candidate. And so that is what I did for 15 years. And then
it's also a great way for philanthropy in its current state to exist, where women are giving their money to philanthropies that are created because of the greed of all of these men.
Yes.
And their policies and their capitalism, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but, solely for their own gain, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And when you look at nonprofit and you look at philanthropy, a lot of these unpaid roles, they are held by women and people of color.
Yeah.
And so the system feeds on itself. Yeah. It kind of continues to create the problem and then to throw those that have the least power and influence at that problem. And therefore we are kept down. Mm-hmm. So I felt like I didn't want to look back another 5 years from where I was and ask myself the same question. To what end? To what end are you going to keep doing this? So I made a decision to leave. And JJ, you're a longtime storied entrepreneur who has carved her own way and pounded the pavement to be the success that you've become. It is not for the faint of heart. And it is not, there's no roadmap. And so when I left that first entrepreneurial endeavor, I thought I would go back to corporate America because I thought it was a sign that I wasn't good at this and that it wasn't meant for me. But I just kind of kept getting this pull to do my own thing and to keep following that intuition and that instinct that I had quelled for so long and begun to mistrust because I was told that my experience didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So here I am.
Well, yeah. And you were told that, but also you believed it, right? You had to believe it.
You have to.
Because
Yeah.
otherwise you keep going, you know what I mean? And that's such a big difference in even the biology of women and men and our just training from the moment that we are, born, in that what we think and, how we are regarded in society is just not as important,
Yes.
And so it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Right.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. So tell us then, how did you get yourself out of that spiral?
One foot in front of the other, one day at a time.
Did you actually go out and look for corporate jobs at that time, or?
So I, in between leaving my first company and starting my second company, very, very uninspired search, I think is the best way to put it. I was kind of like putting my feelers out, talking with people that I knew, but I just, my heart wasn't in it. So I started to build what I thought this could be. And it was one of those things where I was waking up at 4 a.m, in the middle of the night, almost every single night, and just going into a different room where people were not sleeping and putting it into my computer and building a deck for what I thought this could look like and what this could be. And after a few months of this liminality, I finally just bought the damn URL and started to move forward, got the LLC, took those small steps that would mean that I would soon be at a point of no return and I would have no excuse. And therefore it was all of a sudden like, okay, this is a real company and I've created a fucking website in Wix and I am able to launch it. And I know how to do this and I've done this before.
And is this Hype Women?
So this is Ella, which is the company that I launched in July of 2022. Mm-hmm. That has transformed and gone through its own metamorphosis over the first 3 years that I have had this business. And it has now become Hype Women. That Hype Women as this concept and sort of this movement didn't exist when I started my business, but it has evolved into that.
Yeah. I was thinking about that too, not long ago, like just 6 years ago, I started this company and the amount of people whose vernacular, women in particular vernacular, has changed, and all the different kinds of companies who have started alongside. It's even though all the data is the progress is going backwards, the awareness is definitely going forward, right?
Yeah. We're not going to get this green light from corporate America.
No.
For the work that we're doing, because they don't actually want us to be successful.
Of course
we are offering an alternative solution.
Yeah.
So I think there was incredible performative behavior over the summer of 2020 and in that first year and a half of the pandemic, where all of these Fortune 500 companies were making massive donations to diverse organizations and huge commitments about how they were going to shift who was in leadership inside of their companies. And they were saying everything they thought they should say. And then we have seen all of that not only rolled back, but actually further right. Reversed.
Right.
Before,
like we've always felt.
Right. Exactly. They're like, now we get to actually say what we really think. So then the question is, okay, well then how much more of our time and energy are we going to give them to make them money?
Yeah.
Because that's what's happening here is we are lining the pockets of men.
I have this line I say all the time, and I was making money from men by day, trying to overthrow the patriarchy at night. And I was like, what am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Right. And like that tension, you get to a point where you're like, I kind of don't want to moonlight my actual fucking purpose anymore.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'd like this to be out in the daylight in front of people.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So your transition, so you go into Ella. Tell us about that and how that started and what it transitioned into.
Yeah. When I started Ella, I had two goals: to accelerate women into positions of power and influence, and to help women make more money. And the way that I thought I could do that was through this idea that I had when we were talking with one of our McDonald's clients in my previous company. It was the marketing team. It was all women, and we were all women sitting on our side. And they had a campaign that they wanted us to help them execute, launch, communicate. And we weren't talking about the money. No one would say the number. They wouldn't tell us how much they had, and we wouldn't tell them how much we thought we would charge. And we're sitting there, and I'm just like watching all of us. Everyone is a smart, capable woman, and we wouldn't do it. So I kind of stopped everyone and said, I'd like to just try an exercise here. Let's pretend we were men on the golf course. So if we were out there right now and we were drinking Miller Lite from cans and we were swinging our clubs at little white balls, we would say the number. We would say, this is what I have. This is what it costs. And then the conversation would be done and we'd move on. So I said, if we were out there right now, what would you say? And they were like, we have this amount of money to spend in 2 weeks. And we said, great, we will scope to that. And that was it. And so we got what we deserved and they paid us what we were worth. And I thought, what if we did this more often, but not just inside of corporate America, where we were talking to the C-suite who was controlling the purse strings of those companies, but if we were doing this kind of intersectionally across Fortune 500 founders and entrepreneurs, and also sort of like mid to senior level rising stars across every industry. And so that's when I launched the Fairway Dinners. And my thought was, we're not going to do this on the golf course. Yeah. There are women who like to play golf. And so my problem isn't with golf or with white men. It's with systems that are exclusive. Yeah. And that's what that is. That is an entire business ecosystem where men have been doing business for 300 years. Yeah. Women are not invited. We're not included. And if we show up, the conversation changes. So I said, let's bring 15 to 20 women together over 4 hours that are intersectionally across those career levels and industries. And let's see if we can do business together. And it started to work. And I really just started with first my network of who have I met over the past 20 years that I really want to meet each other. I want them to be in the same room. They probably wouldn't ever come across the other person socially or professionally. But if we do it, I think something magical will happen. And over those next 3 years, I hosted 33 dinners and now 10 Hype Women events in 10 major cities for 1,500 women. And we've increased their collective wealth by more than $33 million.
Amazing. So how does that happen? Just sharing information? You have what do you do?
Yeah. So what we do is when these women come to the room, I do a lot of the choreographing and the creation of the mix is the magic. That's the most important part. And so that takes just a lot of care. And I found that so often I would go to these amazing events that were focused on women, and there would be 100 women there. And I didn't know who was going to be there going in. And I also didn't really have any direction once I got there. It was like, hey, you're all here, like, make it happen. Yeah. And that's all fine and good, but you may spend 30 minutes talking to someone who is like awesome and you really like them, but they are never going to be able to help you in your career. Yeah. And the woman across the room who you don't have any chance of meeting could have changed your life. So I wanted to kind of like take that work out of it. More. Exactly. Yeah. And so, ahead of time, it was sending out, this is everyone who's going to be there. Check each other out, pay attention to what the other person's up to. And then it came down to like, who was I seating people next to? Because I had my own personal intel on what they cared about, what they were going through, and what their ambitions were. Yeah. And so by the end of each of these dinners, women had exchanged information and were doing follow-ups. And they were saying, I mean, it's it's not always this like massive $100,000 deal. It's sometimes this person is an incredible photographer and this woman has an entire team at a massive company and she's going to hire her to do all of their headshots. And so now we are transferring capital to one another.
Yeah.
And so that's how we started to do it. And then they would make an introduction to someone else and to someone else. And it was starting to address this idea that if we don't view one another as competition and threats, but instead co-conspirators, we might be able to give this patriarchy a run for its money.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And kind of do this on our own terms.
Yeah. No, I love it. You're speaking our language all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Okay. So then tell us about the thing that changed everything, right? With Hype Women.
Yeah. So January 11th, 2023, there is an image floating around the internet from the night before the Golden Globes. And it is a picture of Jamie Lee Curtis with her arms outstretched, screaming, sitting next to Michelle Yeoh. And Michelle's head is in her hands. And so without context, you don't know what's going on here, but you think Jamie must have won something. And maybe Michelle didn't. Mm-hmm. But further information tells us that Jamie was celebrating Michelle because she had just won her first award. It's the first award she was ever nominated for. After being a working actor for 40 years, she was nominated for Best Actress for her role in Everything Everywhere All at Once at the Golden Globes, and she won. And so that reaction from Jamie was like pure elation for her friend. And when I saw it, I thought to myself, we so rarely see this. A woman celebrating another woman's success as if it were her own, right? Not like a slow clap, like, that's so great for you, you know, or maybe even not a clap, but kind of like a narrowed eye, like, who the fuck does she think she is? But instead, an unabashed hype woman. And so that's what I saw in that moment. And I said, this is our vibe. For 2023, ladies, unabashed hype women. We are going to unlearn what we've been taught, that women are a competition, that they're threats, that a light on her casts a shadow on you. It's a fucking lie. And it is meant to keep us keeping each other down. Yeah. So we are going to unlearn this and we are going to decondition from this. And so I wrote it on LinkedIn. I mean, JJ, I wrote it on my phone. I was like meeting a friend for dinner and I was like, blah, blah, blah. I like scanned it once for typos and then I posted it and I went to dinner and I didn't look at it again that night. And when I woke up the next morning, it was everywhere. Jamie's friend had seen the LinkedIn post and sent it to her. And she then shared it with her 5.6 million Instagram followers at the time. She's now at like 6.5 million. So it got into this whole other orbit. And sort of launched it into conversations where it would never have been if she had not transferred her political capital to me. And so within 4 days, 15 global publications had picked it up and run stories on it. And Jamie and I were texting with each other and she was mailing her 12 children's books to my children, hand inscribed. And I was sending her gifts and we were just kind of volleying this hype back and forth. And we continued to do it. And again, because I had that foundation of entrepreneurship already, I knew that I could do something with this quickly and that this felt like more than just a moment. And so I got hypewomen.com and I turned that around and got that up and going. And I started to get Hype Women brand partners together and to start creating the content and the support of the cultural zeitgeist that was taking place, that women were actually hyping each other. They were celebrating each other's successes and they were also hyping themselves, which is the other piece of this that's so critical. So that's how it started and it kept going. And then a year after that post, Jamie was on her book circuit tour for her 12th children's book. And on the Today Show and on Kelly Clarkson and on The View, they all brought up my post. And they said, what is this? Tell us about this. And Jamie said my name in rooms where I wasn't. And again, she made that transfer of capital to me that continued to fan the flame of this. So that's kind of that's the origin story.
I love it. I mean, you can't make that shit up, right?
No.
And you couldn't have planned it if you wanted to. It's like, hey, I'm going to do this thing, even if it was like one of her friends, she was trying to hype. Like, you can't, like, it's one of those things you can't plan it. And, it's amazing. And good for you for taking that, taking control of it and making it something. And so what does Hype Women look like now? How has it evolved since Ella?
Yeah. So when I talked about, when I set out to start my first company, it was really about power and money. And I do still believe that is what's necessary in order for massive change to be effected, is for women to have more power and money, the money and power they deserve. But I think what I realized was what came out of every single one of those dinners and what came out of the work with this Hype Women movement was all of these women who had forgotten who they were, who had lost themselves somewhere along the way, whether it was in their new role as a mother, or it was in the job that inertia had kept them in, or it was in their marriage or a relationship or a friendship, that they had really lost themselves and they didn't know where to go next. And so that is the work that we did at those dinners. Yes, of course, it was make introductions and let's do business, but it was also, how do we help these women remember who they are?
Right.
And then how do we keep them tethered to that and give them the tools necessary in order to keep evolving? And so about 2.5 years ago, this is maybe 6 months after the post that I wrote, I had a publisher reach out to me and say, I think you have a book in you. And I was like, this is probably the wrong fucking email. I didn't respond to it. I was like, she's wrong. She doesn't know what she's talking about. And a year later, she reached out to me again. She's like, still think there's a book in you. And I was like, okay, maybe she meant to send that first email, so I'll have a meeting this time. But it's the exact thing that I was working with other women on. I was still experiencing it myself. I was still experiencing. I was like, I can't write a fucking book. Like, what do I have to say about this? And you need women who hold a mirror up to you and say, look how fucking amazing you are. You do have it in you. I will be here with you. And so that is what then transformed this into now a book. And what I hope that is going to be when it's out in the world on October 14th and in the hands of women who want to truly transform and to reach their sort of highest selves. So yeah, it's taken a bit of a turn.
We have it here. It is called Hype Women, Breaking Free from Mean Girls, Patriarchy, and Systems Silencing You. And forward by, dun, 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 Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis, right? This is one of those things where like none of this was mapped out, like you said, couldn't have planned it, but your intuition guides you. And there are times when you actually listen and you follow it.
Right.
And sometimes nothing comes of it, even if it's an intuitive hit.
Yeah.
It sort of falls flat, but you don't know. You do start to get to a point where you can feel the difference between something that's pulling you because it's what's meant for you and something that's pulling you because your ego is driving it. So that was kind of what happened for me here.
Oh yeah, I know. And to your point of like, people say this all to me all the time. It's like, well, you're so confident. You're so, I was like, no, I'm not. Like, I need other people to be like, that I help to be like, oh my God, you helped me so much. I need people to guide me. We all do, you know what I mean? And that's something that I fight with every day,
So how do you, on a practical level, how do you take those feelings of sort of not being good enough or not knowing if it's the right thing to do? How do you alchemize that?
Well, I definitely, meditation is a big thing for me. understanding, what I've accomplished, the limiting beliefs, you know what I mean? And just looking out to it, it's like, because all that's inside, right? That's all things that we've learned our whole,
Mhm.
lives. And it's literally taking that moment. And granted, I've been doing it long enough so I can do it, to go, wait a minute, why am I feeling this? And that's why meditation is helpful, because all the thoughts come in and you're trained to like, acknowledge them, label them, and move them on. But
Mhm.
it's literally like, that is fucking stupid. That
Mhm.
is not true. Like, look what I've done from here to there. Like, I
Yeah.
can't compare myself like to any man. They don't,
Mhm.
I'm, they were on third base when I wasn't even in the parking lot.
Mhm.
And so I can't, and it's really just getting real with myself. But that is because I have a lot of experience, and I have, but it's much harder. Like, the younger you are, the less experienced you are, the more in it. And if you're in a cycle of poverty, which I was, to break free from all those things. So I have all of my, little tools and stuff, but, I'm supposed to be the one asking questions. How do you do it?
It's a conversation, girl. Um, yeah, yoga has kind of really changed my life in the past year. I'm not good at meditation. I really want to be.
Yeah.
Yoga forces it on me because I don't have access to anything else when I'm there. So it is a meditative experience. And because I have a really good teacher, she takes us through those visualizations and helps us kind of call that in. So I think, sometimes it can be daunting to think about trying to do these new things on your own. There are ways to be guided by others or to use other
Yeah.
tools to do it. That has been huge for me. That I love the labeling and noting, right? Where it's sort of like it comes in on a train and you're like, nope.
Yeah.
I have started to use this tool that was gifted to me by an energy coach, of when someone else's behavior is sort of dysregulating you, to pause and to say in your head, that's not mine.
Yeah.
Because I believe that I grew up always feeling the responsibility to address what was happening and to mitigate the situation, to appease the person who was being the dysregulator. And so I spent a lot of my time doing that. And that required me to leave my body, to disassociate, and to abandon myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I really have those moments where that energy is coming at me and I just kind of witness it before responding. And I think that this is going against the good girl conditioning that's in so many of us, to not make anyone uncomfortable.
Oh my God, yes.
Right. So we want to fill the space and we want to just like say like, oh no, I know that was so inappropriate, but it's fine. And instead to just be like, yeah, I'm just going to sit here for a minute and take in what just happened. And I'm not responsible for responding to this.
Yeah.
That has been a shift for me.
Yeah. Big. Like I do a lot of executive coaching too. And there's a political candidate I'm coaching, and she is talking about like people, but you're so nice. And I was like, you got to stop them right there. It's like, I'm kind, I'm not nice. And there's a big difference.
Huge.
Because I would not be here right now if I were nice. That would mean everyone could walk all over me. Being kind is respectful, empathetic, but decisive and strong. And
That's
it's
right.
it's a big shift. And like we were saying, it's like when you have all these things, like to be able to quickly label it and push it away, or saying that's not mine, that, immediately gets all the negative out of your head, because otherwise then that's what makes you spiral. And that's why it's so important to label it and move it away from you.
That's right.
But also, so, I want to talk about a term that you have in here, mean girls, and what you mean by that.
Well,
because I think that all of us, every woman has probably been called a mean girl at one point.
There is actually a mean girl inside of all of us.
Yeah.
I mean, that is something that we are conditioned to have in us. And so I think part of the breaking free that I talk about here is, yes, from external mean girls, women who are threatened by you and who are taking action or inaction to work against your success. Those women exist. But it's also the mean girl inside of you that takes control over your own behaviors. So, like, here's a good example. When I had a friend who got a book deal with Penguin Random House, and my publisher is Wiley. Penguin Random House is one of the big five, right? Wiley is a challenger brand. And when I saw that she got the deal, the first feeling I had was, really? She got Penguin Random House? How the fuck did she get Penguin Random House? I didn't get Penguin Random House. And that is what started happening for me. And instead of like letting it just kind of flood me with cortisol and take over, I paused for a second and I said, what is actually happening here? This isn't about Nivi. This has nothing to do with her book. This has everything to do with my own desire and feeling like I didn't get something I wanted. And so that's what was really underneath that. But if I let that mean girl be louder than anyone, not only would I not have told Nivi I was excited for her, I probably wouldn't have also pre-ordered her book, and I wouldn't have hyped her on my social properties, all three of which I did. I would have potentially done the other thing, which is to talk shit behind her back and say to another woman who was willing to listen, how did she get it and I didn't get it? And then they would say, oh my God, totally. You should have gotten it. And then we start this, right? And so I just said to myself, what do you want to do here? Because you're having the feeling and it's a valid feeling that's underneath it. But the way that you are deciding to like reflect back what's going on is not the truth. And so I reached out to her and I told her that I thought all that shit. And I said, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to let it win. And I did all of those 3 acts of hype that actually helped to rewire my brain. But guess what else happened, JJ? Because I told her that I thought those things, she goes, all right, well, for being honest, she said, when I saw that you got a good deal, which I didn't even know what the fuck that meant, right? But the terminology that tells you what the advance is worth, she's like, when I saw that you got a good deal, I thought, Erin got a good deal? How the hell did she get a good deal? And I said, okay, now we're getting to it, right? So we have, instead of letting those 2 thoughts take us down and then turn us on each other,
right?
We have said, not on our fucking watch. And both of us have been celebrating and hyping each other's books. And it is quelling that voice.
Right. Amazing. I love that story because I love that you talk about it as a mean girl as yourself, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's like, look, we're, when it's in business, it's so easy to have those kinds of thoughts because there's so few of us. And when the other does are like, well, what about me? When's my turn? We've all heard it. We walk into an office. There's one office that has a woman in it. That's the only office we think that we can have. Every TV show has, men are in their power in business and complain about their personal life. But, women are supposed to like love their personal life. And then we all complain about our business. So our masculine and feminine is like all mixed up, It's like we act as our most masculine at work and our most feminine at home, where it's like the men get to be the most masculine at work and feminine at home. And it's like, well, why? Why can't we be ourselves at work? It's not working for us.
It's not working. And also it's not binary, which is how I always viewed it. I thought that exact way. I thought I needed to be masculine in my career and I could be feminine in my personal life.
Yeah.
And what I have learned past the age of 40 is that I need both.
Yeah.
And I need to be able to sort of like calibrate and lead with my feminine, which is more of my intuition and my empathy and my heart led, and also use the masculine container for getting things done and having sort of that ambitious drive. And so we're told we're not allowed.
Yeah.
to have, right? We're not allowed to have both. And that's just, it's not
I
true.
have to ask permission from somebody. I'm not sure who, but it's nice. And I love seeing that the men who are embracing their feminine. I just walked. I mean, we all know about like Pedro Pascal and Jason Momoa and, anybody else is wearing a skirt outside, like whatever. It's all great. But like I was walking outside on Reed Street in Tribeca and two like burly, like construction dudes. One was like giving the other kind of a massage. And he was just like, yeah, that feels so good because he was obviously hurt. And I was like, yes.
Right?
Yes. Like
it's like, look, you're being caring and you're being like soft. Soft is not weak.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make you less than. It's actually a very important energy to be able to wield.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
All right. So the book is coming out October 14th.
Yep.
Right here again. Gorgeous cover. I love it.
Thank you.
It will definitely stand out on all of the bookstores. I love. And where can they get it? They can pre-order it.
Yes, you can
Tell
pre-order.
Us where they can find you, Hype Women, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you can pre-order wherever you prefer to buy your books, but I have started to create a little bit of a collation of that on hypewomen.com. So if you go there, there are 8 retailers kind of ready for you, from the Amazons of the world to the bookshop.orgs, to some independent women-owned bookstores in Chicago that I love. But also, Books A Million and other places that really support the independent bookstores. And you can find me on, I used to be on LinkedIn a lot more. I really have shifted my energy away from it because I don't believe that it has the best interest of women at heart. I haven't for a long time, and I've been trying to talk with senior people there and not gotten anywhere. So I've shifted my energy. I no longer use LinkedIn as my primary content publishing platform. I'm doing that on Substack, and I'm on Instagram. And so that's what I'm doing. Now, granted, these are all still owned by fucking Silicon Valley white men, like they all are. And so we have to work with what we have, but I'm also paying attention, a part of investing in women who are building new and different platforms where we can really start to shift our capital.
Yeah, I love it. All right. Before we let you go, we have to ask the one question we ask everyone. And that is, what is the worst advice you've ever received?
I've received so much bad advice. This is really hard to narrow down, but the one that has really sort of stood out to me and going against it has changed my life was don't burn bridges. I think that message is really meant to protect corporate America and to protect the people who are holding you back. And so I get to say this as a straight, white, cisgendered woman. I have a ton of fucking privilege in this world, not because I deserve it or earned it, but because we live in a white supremacist patriarchy. And so I better well use that fucking privilege in the right way, and to put my body in front of, beside, and behind every woman who needs me. And so burning bridges with my former employers and women who have wronged me is the only way I've been able to move forward and move on.
Stand for nothing, you fall for everything, right?
That part.
Amazing.
You got it.
Thank you so much for coming on here. I'm excited for you and your book and everything that's happened in the last 5 years. Can't wait for the next 5. Thank you, Jamie Lee Curtis. It's amazing. But again, this has been great. Thank you for everyone that has listened, and thank you for tuning into this episode of Taking Care of Lady Business. Until next time, I'm Jennifer Justice. Thanks to MedJet for supporting the Lady Business podcast. If you're hospitalized or your security is threatened while traveling, they can get you home. I'm a MedJet member and have been for years. Everyone who travels should be. Enroll before your next trip at medjet.com. Thanks for tuning in to Taking Care of Lady Business. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, and review. And also share this episode with a friend who needs that extra push to own their success. If you want more strategy, stories, and exclusive content, follow us on TikTok at Taking Care of Lady Business, on Instagram at thejustice.dept, and Jennifer Justice L, or visit our website at thejusticedept.com. Taking Care of Lady Business is a production of Lady Business LLC.